for a lot of people, they get rid of those dreams and they become practical while they're progressing through the different promotions that come to you as you're going through your career. And so I kind of put that dream on the shelf and didn't come back to it. And then when I exited, I was like, man, this is a place I need to go. It's what I always said I wanted to do. The time is now if I'm a bet on myself. And so
welcome, millionaires and future millionaires. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, the show where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their portfolio allocation. Now to your host, Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 343. Stace, how's it going?
Going great. I think that maybe you should share. You're unplugging.
Yeah, I know. It's been a few weeks since I've been on the mic. Listeners probably had no idea, but that's all good. But yeah, I unplugged a little bit and spent some time down in Colombia and Aruba. Shout out to our Colombian listeners. There's quite a few of you, I know. Wish I could have told you I was coming before, but yeah, kind of kept it a little under the wraps until I got back. I didn't know what to expect, but beautiful country. Spent some time in Medellin and Guatapé. And yeah, went down for a little quick trip, get some wake surfing in. Beautiful lake there, so do some hiking in the mountains and some zip lining and horseback riding and four-wheeling, and I don't know, we did a bunch of stuff. Just two dudes celebrating the 40th birthday, not mine, rocking and rolling as much as we could and kiteboarding in Aruba.
Anyway, glad you got to unplug. That doesn't happen for you very often, and I know you mentioned it on LinkedIn a little bit, talking about taking that opportunity to unplug. So anyway, glad you had fun. Glad you're back. I'm overjoyed you're back, actually, because I need help.
You had a good time with your sisters and your mom.
That's true. No, I had a little bit of girl time while you were gone, and it was great.
Yeah. But yeah, back at it. Excited to be back on the mic. It's been a few weeks, and yeah, not going to skip a beat. So today's episode, I'm super excited. We have Jerome. He's got a net worth of over $1 million, but less than 10. And yeah, he's a corporate America dropout, as he calls it, and is turned over to real estate and business and kind of the entrepreneurial route. So super excited, great conversation with him, and get into the details and weeds of his journey. I had a couple reviews come in the last few weeks. In fact, got one on on Spotify. This comes from Rick1129. Rick says, I'm interested in sharing my story. Net worth $7 million. Send us an email. I can't really respond on Spotify, but yeah, always looking for great new guests. Love to have you on the show. millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. Also, I've had a couple come in specifically regarding people's incomes, and yeah, we used to ask that a lot more, and then I guess we've gotten away from it a little bit, partly because the ranges were getting a little crazy in some respects, but then also we had a lot of guests, and in their intake form that it was getting difficult to narrow down what we're actually, between people's investment income or W-2 income or business income. It was just all over the board of how do you define income, and what are you going to put on your tax return, which, if you've got NOL carryovers or whatever it may be, it was just, some started getting complex, and it was like, this just isn't really the intent of the question. But I understand that for some guests, it may be helpful to have context into what they're making or what their income is. But like I said, it is, as income net worth level, or I should say as net worth levels rise, the income situation becomes drastically complex. And the other part too is as this show grows globally, it's very hard to put income in context in some respects with, the dollar being what it is. For example, I had a Canadian guest last week, but a bunch of his money was earned and the exchange rate was more 1-to-1 than it is today. And at any rate, I hear you. Maybe we'll try to include it a few more times, but like I said, it just becomes a very complex question with some of our guests into what their actual income is and how do you define income. Much more complex than putting together a balance sheet, so to speak, and figuring out what your net worth is. So, which is also can be complex with some people, but that seems to be a little bit easier than it is with income and defining income.
Can I get a drum roll? Drum roll, please, for we are excited to announce our very first MU meetup. We decided on November 8th and 9th of this year. It's a Friday, Saturday. That will be here in Austin, Texas. So more details to come. Jace, if you want to share anything now, or we can...
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna be pretty low key. We'll see how many people. I'm probably gonna cap it because I don't want that many. I'm not wanting to do crazy big hosting thing, but I know there's been lots that have asked for it over the years, and think we can make it happen this year. We're gonna do it. So be early November. Weather in Austin should be spectacular, and we'll plan a few fun activities. And I like to play, so be a lot of playing, and we'll try to get some education in somehow, or connect with each other and figure out the challenges that everybody's going through between the listeners and the guests and everything else. So yeah, that'll be at November 8th and 9th in Austin, Texas. I'm excited for it. Plenty of weeks and months to plan. So yeah, if you're interested, send us an email. I know several of you have already. I'll try to reach back out. Like I said, I've been a little MIA for the last little bit here, so I've got quite a bit of catching up to do. I know there's several emails that have come in the last couple weeks here that I need to get back to. So it's not you, it's me. I'll get there. Stacy will help me. Yeah, without any further delay, let's get the episode today with Jerome.
Jerome, you want to just give us about your background and what you're up to now?
Yeah, Jace, I am a corporate America dropout. Back in 2016, after building a $20 million Division 4 Fortune 550, I left corporate America, mainly because I had to lay people off each year. Imagine getting a phone call at 4:55 on December 24th, and it goes something like this. Hey, Jace, I know you and I have been going back and forth about this for the past few weeks, and I made a decision. We're going to lay half the team off. And I know it wasn't actually you on the other end. It was me. And I said, hey, man, that's not the right idea. He said, yeah, that's why we've been going back and forth about this. But I called to let you know that I made a decision. And after going back and forth for a few minutes, he said, look, I called to let you know what we're going to do. And that's what we're going to do. I'll talk to you in the new year. And so I spent, that week in between Christmas and the New Year's, figuring out who was going to have a job and who wasn't. And that cut me deep. And I promised myself I would never do it again. Fast forward to the next year, Thanksgiving, the same thing was getting ready to happen. And so I decided to leave corporate and started real estate full time. And that was a long, windy road. And in the end, I feel like we had quite a bit of success, but it wasn't without its hitches, man. And so that's what we've been doing since we left corporate. And really excited to be on the show with you.
Yeah, and we're going to get into all the details. I love that corporate America dropout. That's great. So before we get into all the details, what is your net worth today?
Yeah, somewhere between 1 and 10 million. I know that's a broad range, but what I would say, and the listeners, I hope you are aware of this, there's a special designation called accredited. And so the goal here is to be worth over $1 million without counting your primary residence. And if you can do that, then you get access to what is called a protected or private placement opportunities. And that's not something that most people get access to. And so there's 3 ways to qualify to be accredited. You can have a license, a securities license. The second way is income over 200,000 for the past 2 years and expect them to do more. And I think it's 300,000 if you're a couple. And then the other way is through assets. And so we qualify through income and assets for that class. And I know this podcast is about being a millionaire, but I think that accredited one is really important for folks who want to get passive income.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, net worth millionaire, how are your assets divided up? What's the allocation there?
Yeah, all that stuff's in real estate, man. We've got some 401ks and some brokerage accounts out there, but we don't even count them because the real estate gets us to that accredited status.
So all the 401k and brokerage accounts, is that from kind of the corporate life that you had previously, or do you still contribute to those?
I do not. I don't think those 401ks are the right place for most people to put their income if they have any interest in retiring before they're 60, which I do. You got a lot of penalties. You end up paying a bunch of taxes if you're not careful, if you're doing pre-tax contributions to things. And I know there's a lot of financial advisors out there who would disagree with me, but if you can figure out how to get accelerated returns and get them in a way that allows you to use them without the penalties, I think it's the right move for a lot of folks.
When you were in corporate, were you maxing out those accounts?
I was. I thought that I was going to stay in corporate for 40 years. And I was on the American Dream plan, right? Where you get a good job after going to a good school and you work a job for 30 or 40 years with the hope that you can live for 10 or 15 years after you retire. And I learned pretty quickly after exiting that there's a whole new world out here. There's people who are work optional in their 30s, 40s, and early 50s. And so this concept of working until you're 65, 70, 75 just went out the window for me pretty quickly.
So let's rewind just a little bit as you made this transition. So you're getting these phone calls. You decide to leave at some point. Walk us through that transition and why real estate.
Yeah, the transition was a brutal one. I did everything wrong. So I would tell nobody to follow in my footsteps from this perspective of transitioning out. But I had about a year and a half worth of expenses saved. And so I felt like if I couldn't figure out how I was going to earn money over the course of 18 months, then I was probably in trouble. What I didn't realize was when I was going into real estate, it was going to be pretty capital intensive. And some of that money that I had saved for living expenses was going to have to be invested into my business. And so that's what I ended up doing, especially when I got pretty heavy into fixing and flipping. I picked real estate, and fixing and flipping was not my first choice. I picked real estate because I was sitting on a stoop my sophomore year in college with my buddy Duran, and we were doing a little bit of math. I was paying $395 for my bedroom in my apartment. I had two other roommates. They were paying $395 for their bedrooms downstairs. Duran's roommates and him were paying the same amount. And so we multiplied it across the complex. The guy was making $700,000 a year, but we never even saw him or talked to him. And the question was, well, if he can do that, and I'm just trying to figure out how to make $70,000 a year, I'm pretty sure this is what I should be doing. I mean, think about that, right? You never saw him, you never talked to him. I mean, he decoupled his time for his money. The only issue, Jace, I had was that I was the son of a soldier and a stay-at-home mom. Like, nobody with a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio was coming to the house for the cookout. And so I didn't know how to do it. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm going to go into corporate. I'll figure out how to meet new people who are doing the stuff. I'll make some money. I'll get a credit score. Like, these things will potentially open up the doors for me later. Now, for a lot of people, they get rid of those dreams and they become practical while they're progressing through the different promotions that come to you as you're going through your career. And so I kind of put that dream on the shelf and didn't come back to it. And then when I exited, I was like, man, this is a place I need to go. It's what I always said I wanted to do. The time is now if I'm a bet on myself. And so that's why I went back to the real estate.
How much income did you have when you made that jump from real estate or to other sources?
Yeah, I think I did like 170 or 180 that year.
And how much did you have coming in from outside of your job, though?
None. Zero.
So you made the leap with no income.
No income, no clients, no leads, and not a real plan. Yeah.
Wow. And how long did it take you to kind of get ramped up?
So the funny part is I didn't have income for over a year, right? So in real estate, I mean, think about it. I thought I was going to buy an apartment. I spent like 4 months trying to figure out how to get that done. That didn't work. So then I converted and bought a townhouse. and I fix and flip that. I guess it's more of a row house than a townhouse. I fix and flip that, but it took me, 6-8 months to finish the rehab, and then it was on market for a couple of months. And so that was the first time that I actually made money on the backside of leaving corporate, was the proceeds from the sale of that flip. And even that, like the day that I was supposed to close, one of the contractors put a lien on the property to try to hold up the closing. It was a whole cluster, man. And so, like I said, I didn't do it the right way at all.
What would you have done differently?
Yeah. So for a while, we started helping people figure out how to get exit ready and exit corporate. And what we found was, one, you want to have 9 months worth of expenses saved. But the next thing that you want to do is sell something. And you just need to sell one of them. What we figured out is the difference between 0 to 1, that first sell, is the hardest sell you ever have. And people kind of like scrunch up their face and like, that can't be true. If you haven't been in a sales role, and this is your first time putting together a product and selling it to somebody, or a service and offering it to somebody, there's a whole lot of emotion that goes into that experience. And a lot of times that keeps people from making the progress that they need to make. In fact, there are some people who have so much anxiety about selling that they'd rather go back and get a job than sell.
Shopify is the e-commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling